Super grateful to be able to introduce our speaker tonight. I think it was a couple months ago. I don't know exactly how, but I was just doing some Facebook searching and I stumbled across Dream Life New Zealand, and I reached out to Joann, and she invited me to a dream circle. I was like, does this get any cooler, you know? And I didn't actually partake in it, but at that point I realized I wanted to have the Quantum Healing Collective partake in this, you know, and to bring Joann on because she's doing all this stuff all the way across the world that we're seriously into. So she's in New Zealand right now. It's Monday, but her short bio is she's a reality transurfing coach, author, and shamanic facilitator. She shares her journey towards greater awareness, healing, and freedom. Today, Joann helps her clients to dream bigger, choose more happiness, and move forward to having maximum positive impact in their lives. So thank you so much for joining us, Joann. We're incredibly happy to have you here. Oh, I gotta unmute you, sorry. Hold on, go ahead. There you go.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's lovely to meet you all, both present and in the future. As Kyle mentioned, I'm actually tuning in from the future at the moment because it's 2 p.m. in New Zealand on Monday. So I'm already tomorrow. So my theme for today, as discussed, will be active dreaming. This is one of the modalities that I've trained in. And if there's interest or if the discussion leads that way, I could also talk a little bit about the shamanic facilitation that I do. So I'd like to first introduce myself and something of my journey thus far, and then discuss what is active dreaming and what it can do for us. Then maybe look at some methodologies or some tips and tricks that we use for active dreaming. And then I thought we could do an example together of entering into an image and maybe get some experiential elements. If possible, I could share some drumming, but if it doesn't work on this platform, we can just imagine that I'm drumming, like for about 5 minutes or something. And then we can discuss, or people can share their experiences, and then do some Q&A perhaps, if that's all right. So just to introduce myself, I'm Joann Greig. I was born in New Zealand quite a few decades ago now. And I've just returned to New Zealand after nearly 30 years abroad, where I was living and working in Europe and the United States. I actually worked for the United Nations. So before I left New Zealand, I qualified as a lawyer, and I was working in private practice law, also for the government. And then I was recruited to the United Nations, where I was a permanent staff member there. I spent most of my years living in Vienna, Austria, and it was actually a great location in the sense that I did my shamanic training, or some of it, from Vienna. I did several years. I lose track a bit of the time, but it was probably 3 to 4 years with an Eastern Cherokee Metis shaman who traveled to Europe to do training, called Aigwidivaya, and that's where I learned the shamanic facilitation method that I use, the soul recovery and extraction. And subsequently, I learned active dreaming. So I'm also certified as an active dreaming teacher with Robert Moss. And I did most of that work in the Czech Republic. But my journey with Robert actually started about 30 years ago when I traveled to the US and did a workshop with him in New York. So that was my first visit to New York. So after working in Vienna for quite a long time, I did about 18 months in New York working for the United Nations there. So, I've lived in the US, and I love the United States and the people there. And after that, I went on a peacekeeping mission to Kosovo, which is in the Balkans, just above Greece. And that was a really fascinating experience for about 5 to 6 years. So I've had quite a lot of experience working for organizations and bureaucracies, both in my home country, New Zealand, and also internationally. And I have to say, on the surface, it looked good. There was a lot of international travel, and I could use my spare time for training. And yet I wasn't really that happy, and I wasn't really that healthy. It was always a question of how to adapt to an organization, or how to adapt yourself to people or things that you're not really that much in tune with. And I remember it was probably about 2 years ago, I just woke up in the morning one day and I just thought, I've had enough of this. I don't need to do it anymore. And so I made yet another change in my life, and I decided to come back to New Zealand and focus solely on sharing these healing and shamanic modalities, the wisdom traditions that I've been learning for quite a few years now. I also had the pleasure and privilege of visiting quite a few sacred sites while I was in Europe, notably in the United Kingdom, England, Wales, Ireland, and connecting to the Celtic wisdom of my ancestors there. So that's a little bit about me. So now I'm offering services on my website, which is dreamlifenz.com. You can see more about me there. I've got some of my certifications there, so you can see that I've been doing these things for quite a few years now. And I'm working one-on-one with people, and also in groups. So I'm hoping to get going again this year, probably with another dream group and some more workshops and things like that. So looking at turning now to what is active dreaming and what it can do for us. So a lot of us feel quite disconnected, and that we're not really fully in tune with our lives. There's something missing. And the active dreaming can really be a portal or a doorway to allow us access to what's within ourselves. It's very empowering. I think I've just lost a couple of people, but I'll keep going. Oh no, I'm back again. It's very empowering in the sense that everyone can empower themselves. Everyone can access their own deeper selves, do their own soul recoveries through active dreaming. And the reason we call it active dreaming is to distinguish between passive dreaming. So it's not just you go to sleep and you have a dream very passively. It's rather that we actively engage in the process, which goes beyond night dreams that might come to us, although there's certainly a lot we can do with that. But we start to realize that the waking life is also something of a dream. So there's methodologies like how to navigate with synchronicities. We look for signs. And I know some people have difficulty remembering their dreams, but in fact, we can use events in our waking lives as if they were dreams, and we can get messages from that as well. And it's not only about our own dreams, but also how we can talk about them with other people. How can we become a community of dreamers? And we realize that dreams are a form of reality. It's not just a psychological illusion. although there may be elements of psychology that come into it. But there are many dreaming societies that we can, I can see a message, I feel like I'm in dream state a lot. Yeah, I think we all are actually. There are dreaming societies still functioning in the world today. And I think of there's indigenous people in Indonesia who are a dreaming society. And through their dreaming, they got the message that there was a tsunami on its way. I don't know if you remember, it was over 10 years ago, but there was a massive tsunami in Asia that destroyed thousands of villages or cities, and a lot of people died there, particularly in Japan. The Dreaming Society, they got the message that the tsunami was coming, and they listened to their dreams. And this is the big difference. Often we have dreams, but we don't listen to them. They listened to them, and they listened to the dreamers, and they moved. They went up into the hills, and they survived the tsunami. So I believe that the dreaming capacity is something that we all have, that we've brought it through with us over the thousands of years that humanity's been alive. And most probably, it's one of the reasons why the human species is still alive, that the hunters would dream where they could find the game, for example. There's people and indigenous people that still can do this. And we can do it too if we train for it. So they were able to find the game. They could know what sort of winter was coming or when to plant, this kind of thing. So the dream faculty can bring us important information about the future, past, present, and future. And in terms of the future, I see us as being in a kind of quantum soup. So there are alternative futures. Some are more likely than others. And there's many examples of people who have received dream warnings and been able to avoid the destructive consequences of those warnings by heeding their dreams. For example, people, before they physically become ill, they might have a dream that they have a particular condition that needs to be addressed. And if they listen to their dream, they can go to the doctor or health practitioner of some sort, and they can address that condition before it manifests into an actual illness. And even if an illness has manifested, it can also be successfully treated through dreams, through visualizations. There's research that's shown people with quite serious conditions can use some like animal or fish medicine to counteract that. For example, there's one case that I know about of someone who had cancer and was able to, their body could galvanize its immune system by imagining sharks were eating up the cancer cells. And the body will respond to what we imagine, and it will adjust itself accordingly. Also, in terms of creativity, and this is something I find very compelling, is that many of the most creative people in human history, including scientists, have received many of their insights through dreams, either through night dreams or a period of the dream cycle called the hypnagogic state, which is just between being awake and being asleep. And in that time, images, impressions can just come into the mind. And if we're working on a problem, those images can trigger insights or creative ideas. And the guy who invented the sewing machine was basically inspired by a dream to put the hole in the end of the needle, because he wasn't able to figure out how to actually sew something with a needle and thread. So it was through a dream that he figured that out. Probably the psychologist or the psychotherapist that I feel the most resonance with would be Carl Jung, because he looked into the collective unconscious and had a very full appreciation of that. And his approaches to dreaming and synchronicities, he actually invented the word synchronicity, which means meaningful coincidence. So he understood that there's a collective energy field that we all live in and operate in, both as human beings, also the natural world, and events that can happen in the world are linked together. And if we're alert to it, we can see signs or take hints. Now, something that's happened to me many times over the years, and I know this sounds strange, but I have often found playing cards lying on the footpath, just at random. So I'm walking along and I see a playing card there. And since I've done some training with the tarot, I see this as a kind of like a tarot reading, but it's come direct from the energy matrix of the world somehow. So for me, that's a real synchronistic sign of something. So if I'm pondering something and I find cards, to me, that's the most reliable kind of reading that you can get from cards, is just to find them at random. And when people learn about this, they often start finding cards themselves. So you're on notice now. We'll see if anyone finds a card. You just have to be aware as you're walking along. So this is part of the act of dreaming, that we start to interact with our world as if it's a dream. The ancient people in ancient Greece knew this very well, and they might, for example, take a word or a phrase, the first thing they hear in the morning when they set out. So they go out onto a street with the intention to get a message about something. And the first thing they heard, they understood this was the answer. This was a kind of oracle that would tell them the answer to their question. It's called a Kleidon. And this works very well. So there's a lot of games like this we can play in active dreaming. And we can really learn from experience how things are very much interconnected. And coming back to the community experiences, one of the interesting things is to dream with other people. We can, for example, create an intention to travel or to meet. Certain people might decide to meet at a certain place in their dreams. And this can actually work. Sometimes it's done by intention, other times spontaneously. So I think that really demonstrates that it's a reality of a non-physical kind that can be shared and validated. In our active dreaming toolkit, in workshops or dream circles, if someone wants to go more deeply into their dream, this is called dream reentry. So this is a key technique that we listen to some drumming, or could be some music possibly. We get into a alpha or theta state and go back into the dream. Perhaps there's some unresolved energy there. Perhaps it's a bit of a nightmare, or you just want to find out more about something. And in a team, trackers can come with you. So the dreamer will lead, and then you can have 3 or 4 trackers who will enter the dream with you, and they observe. So when you come back out, you say what happened in your dream. And it can be very interesting to hear what the trackers observed. They say, oh, I saw this, or I saw that. And you get a different perspective on things. And again, in workshops, which works more in person actually rather than Zoom, but dream theatre is one of the most fun and exciting things that you can do, which is to reenact a dream. So the dreamer selects people to represent different dream characters or items, and then you dramatize the dream. And often in the dream, people might wake up or they got stuck at a certain point. But through the dream drama, the other team members can help you to make breakthroughs and share their experience and say, oh, it's this person, or it might be something like a clock or a bird or something like that. So just to indicate how some of the dream work in a group can be a great experience and work very well. Now I mentioned the soul recovery, and this is also one of the main important elements of active dreaming. We can progressively, through dreams or dream reentry, we can recover parts of ourselves or energy that has got blocked or trapped in different locations. Now, this is why active dreaming is very empowering for people to learn to do. On the other hand, the shamanic facilitation that I do as well, that's more when I will go and do it for the person. So maybe they haven't reached the point, or they just prefer that someone else does it. And in this case, I will go into an altered state and get the pieces back, bring them back to the person, and then we have a conversation about it. And the work comes for that person as they integrate it. So they're also active, but the actual, the recovery, the soul recovery, is done by the shaman in that case. One of the main benefits or goals that we have through accessing dreaming is to reconnect with the natural world that so many of us have been cut off from. And a prime example of that is the animal guides or the animal kingdom. And through that, we can get a tremendous vitality and access to the instinctual parts of ourselves. I think probably these parts that evolved early in the human race when we were living very close to nature. It can be animal, like the bear, for example, is a prime case of a dreaming guide. It can be birds, for the owl, for example, or even insects. I know a few people, including myself, with bee medicine, and working closely with these kind of animal medicines. We can track through mythology, through Greek mythology, Celtic, different indigenous traditions, to see how people over millennia have connected with these different animal guides. And something I thought would be nice to do today, in a few minutes, is it's a little practice that we can do. We're going to use a card with an image on it, so we can practice dream re-entry, but instead of a dream, we can use an image. We can use a tarot card or other sorts of cards. But what I've got here is Denise Lynn's, let me see if I can hold this up. Oh, it's not going very well. Denise Lynn's Sacred Destiny Oracle. I'm also certified with Denise Lynn, actually, if you know her, with her Gateway Dreaming. She's also teaches a lot about dreaming. And I think I can just show this here. So we'll come to this in a minute, but I'll just float the idea now that this comes from her Sacred Destiny Oracle. And I formed the intention using a process of divination. I said, what would be a good card for us to work with for this session? And I got this card. It's called Protection, and it shows the image of an oak tree. Now, the oak tree was revered in days gone by with many different peoples, including the Vikings, the Celts. It was like one of the kingly, the trees. The Druids, of course, venerated the oak tree, and it was known for its wisdom. So what I'm going to suggest in a few minutes is we practice a dream reentry, which means that we imagine this image. You kind of look at it and look away and look at it and look away until you can see it in your mind's eye. We're not going to do it now, Kyle. I'm just laying I'm just planting the seed for it, but it's coming in a few minutes, okay? Then we will enter into the image and go to the oak tree. And what I will suggest to you is that there you will meet an animal guide. You'll call to your animal guide, and that he or she will be waiting for you there. It could be anything. It could be a cat, a dog, a bird, it could be an eagle, it could be a butterfly, a bee, you know, it could be a rhinoceros or an elephant. And then just spend some moments with that being that you'll find there. Or in case nothing comes, you can just converse with the tree, and then we'll come back and discuss what happened. Now, the tree, I think it was a very appropriate card, because in the shamanic tradition, the tree, any tree actually, symbolizes the world tree. So this is a structure that the tree is a living being that spans between earth, like and deep, the underworld, the surface of the earth, and then it goes up and the sky. And so when we're traveling as active dreamers, we can use our favorite tree, which might well be an oak, because the Druids knew this was a portal tree. I think its rune is dur, which is similar to door. So it's a kind of doorway. And through the connection with this tree or some other tree, we can travel in our dream life to the underworld, which is known as the dark world of mythology, of nature, of the past. It can be deep healing, deep power. We can experience the human world, whether in past, present, or future, which is the middle world. And we can also go up into the heavens, and there we might meet angels or masters, ancestors, although perhaps ancestors are in the underworld more, I'm not sure. Can be in the underworld or the upper world. It's really not uncommon to meet the dear departed, like many people meet with their ancestors or people they were close to who have passed on, who have died. Actually, while I'm talking, just last night I dreamt about a former director of mine. So also my sister passed away, so I usually see her at least once every month or two, also my father. So this can be a consolation for people who have lost people. And you realize that they're still around, but they're just in a different reality or a different vibration. This is another significant aspect of the act of dreaming. So I think we start to see just the realms of possibility that can open up to us with this. And one of the key things that dreams can do is that they can prompt us, they can give us insights into our current conditions. And sometimes it's the nightmares or the things that are chasing us, or the things that we don't want to really confront, that what we need to confront, that they might seem very scary, but actually they're things that would be better to know than to not to know. So I remember when before I decided to leave the organization where I'd been working for nearly 30 years, I had a dream that I was pursued by some criminals. And there was a woman actually who was pursuing me, and her message was, you know what, you should really leave that organization. And this was quite a scary message for me at the time, because I couldn't imagine myself living outside of that structure. It took me some months to realize that that was actually a helpful message, that was, in fact, that was what I needed to do. But at the time, it came like something quite frightening. So in that sense, it can be course corrections coming from different levels. Creativity, I think I mentioned, it's very useful as a writer if you want to work with characters or develop stories for writing. I don't know if any of you are novelists, but you can use the active dreaming modalities to enter into the world of the characters and dream up some more plot points. Or for artists, you know, the possibilities are really endless for this kind of thing, for healing. And conscious living in general. So we become more conscious as we start to, we become aware of our dreams, and we become aware of synchronicities while we're awake. And the dream journal is one of the main keys that I really recommend, that you start writing down your dreams. As soon as you wake up, even if it's at night, you just jot down a few words. And this becomes one of the really essential keys. And over the years, you can look back, you can do a search on a theme, for example, or interestingly, a lot of the things that actually happen, you find that you've dreamt about them in advance. So there's this kind of future dreaming that's, it's very valuable, and it just really opens the awareness to possibilities. And you can choose from those. There's nothing set about it. It's this kind of quantum soup. So if you do nothing, probably you'll be just led along the same path. But with greater awareness, including through watching dreams, you can take more control of what you're doing. And there's other things we can look at as well, like making a sacred dream space. It's something very nice to do, to look at the bedroom and space clearing there, making a dream altar. I sleep with crystals by my bed. Probably ideally it's good to have one crystal, but depending on what I want to, the sort of energy I want to tune into, it can vary. And it's good to have dream crystals, selenite, for example. Moonstone is a classic one. So probably that's enough for now, is it? Or should I keep going? Or should we move to our
that was an awesome overview. Let's do this activity. It sounds awesome.
Okay. I don't know if I can share. Can I share this music? I see share screen. So.
So if you go down to, hold on, let me make you. I made you a call. So
advanced sharing options, is that it?
Yep, and then music or computer sound only. Do you see that there? Hold on a sec.
Not sure how to get to that.
Click on on the button, not the little arrow next to it, maybe.
Yeah, and Kyle, you may have to stop sharing your sound before she can share hers.
Good idea. Yeah, good call. So if you click share screen.
maybe before I do this, perhaps I'll outline again the exercise, and then I'll see if I can share the sound, which will be, say, 4 minutes drumming, something like that, and then I'll stop it again.
All right, great.
So it says, okay. So I'll continue. Okay, so let me bring this up. So the exercise, cancel. Sorry, this is a bit temperamental. Okay, there, that's probably better. Yeah. So as we see, there's a tree there. The title is protection. So this is the theme at the moment. So you're going to imagine that, try to memorize this image. Then when the drumming starts, or doesn't start, when it should start, you imagine that you're walking along this path to under the tree. And there should be an animal, a bird, some sort of guide waiting for you. Might be an angel, might be an ancestor, we don't know. Probably an animal of some sort. And just interact with that animal. Say, you know, what are you? What can you do for me? What insights do you have to share with me today? And then in a few minutes, we'll come back out. You come back the way that you came, and we'll share some experiences with that. And I'll introduce lightning dream work, which is a way of sharing dreams that we use in active dreaming. So each person owns their own experience. We don't interpret other people's dreams, but we offer feedback in a respectful way. All right, so I'm going to see, I'm going to try to do this drumming now. Desktop one, share sound, okay. Okay, slowly coming back. Slowly coming back. You're back in the room. If you wish, you can jot down a few notes if you're prepared for that. I'm going to ask in a moment for a couple of volunteers. So I'm going to ask you to give a title for your experience and tell us how you feel about it and what happened. We'll start with that. All right. Is there anyone who would like to share their experience? Discuss?
I don't mind going first.
Yep, Kyle.
That was really cool.
So what's the title for your, this is the kind of framework that we use, just to give an example. So what's the, if you had to give it a title, like a book or a poem, what would the title be?
I would call it Surrender.
Okay. And how do you feel?
Relaxed. Right now, I feel relaxed.
Yes.
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, can you tell us what happened?
So I was walking down the path and an owl popped out and hopped on my back. And I always have like this pain right in my neck. And it started like massaging my neck. And then the sky turned entirely like purple. And it basically just said, surrender. You try to figure out who's fooling you all the time. It said something like that, like you just try to figure out who's fooling you, but nobody's fooling you. I couldn't understand. So that's what the owl was saying. And then out of nowhere, this fox came off the path and it asked me to like grab its tail. And so I grabbed its tail and then it started like, it dove underground. And it started swimming like underground, like it was trying to take me into the underworld. And I feel like it was trying to take me to the Earth's core, but I don't really know where we were going. We just kept riding around on the fox's tail. Yeah. So that's what happened for me.
Well, have you done this sort of thing before or?
No.
Oh,
No.
just a natural.
I have done Joe Dispenza's meditations where at the end he says,
Yeah.
think of a sign, and my sign will always be to have an animal show up in my life. So I've had like animals show up in my life in the real world. And it's been a fox in the past. So I don't know if it was the same fox, but
so this is one of the questions we ask. It's called a reality check. So my question would be, have you encountered any of these animals before?
Yes.
So you've encountered the fox before?
Yeah, and an owl too. Yep.
And an owl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Just because of time, I won't delve into that more deeply, but we could, if we had more time. And what would you like to know about the experience?
I kind of want to know what the fox was trying to tell me. Because I've seen foxes like multiple times in my life where I'll be walking in the woods and like the fox will turn to me like he knows me. And this is like in real life where like the fox will turn to me and we'll just stare at each other for like 20 seconds. I've had this happen probably 4 or 5 times. And then he'll just turn and go on his way. So I don't know why. I don't know why it's shown up. I kind of think I understand what the owl was telling me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, in the next phase of the lightning dream work, the partner, who in this case is me, will say, if it was my dream, so we always say, if it was my dream, I would think such and such. Because we never try to interpret someone else's dream. We don't say, oh, you this or you that. It's if it was my dream. Okay, so if it was my dream, I would recognize the owl. I mean, both of these animals they have a long and venerable tradition in the wisdom traditions and shamanism. So the owl is well known for seeing in the dark, so seeing in dark places, the wisdom. Also, both are predators, so it really has a laser-like focus. And it seems that you have access to what the Native Americans called medicine, or the powers of those animals would seem to come naturally to you. The fox is one of the oldest shamanic or oldest creatures associated with shamanism since ancient times. The oldest, the skeleton of a female shaman was actually found with fox pelt with her. So she was a fox shaman. But they're a little bit trickster-like. So there's this kind of trickster-like energy that needs to be approached with respect and a little bit of care. I think the fox was it sounded like, if it was my dream, I would think the fox was excited to have finally got you.
We were playing.
Maybe you could have asked him, like, where are you taking me, or what do you want to do now? And you could have just kept a bit more control. But the foxes are typical tricksters. So they like appear and disappear at twilight. But both are really power animals par excellence. So if it was my dream, I'd be very satisfied with that.
Awesome.
First contact. And the fox could indeed take you down through the roots of the tree into the underworld, quite possibly. And this might be something, you mentioned the core of the earth, that you were feeling a resonance with that. And this is one of the key sources of power that we have access to, actually. So it's good to ground into the earth. It might be that Fox thought you needed to ground and to take your energy into the earth and then be empowered by that. So it might have been, that might have been what he was doing.
Yeah, makes sense. It's awesome. Yeah, I could definitely feel like he was like playing with me, like he was joking around. Yeah. That's cool.
That's Fox energy. How are we going time-wise? Do we have time for another one? Or
Yeah, we can do a couple more. That was great, by the way. Thank you. I see Angela's hands up, so I'll unmute Angela.
Okay. Angela, so you like to share your experience?
Yes, I would. And I hope, yes.
Can you give us a title for the experience?
Forgive.
Okay. And how did you feel when you came back? The feelings are always important with this. When you first come back, how do you feel?
Well, I would say part deep sadness and part relief.
So tell us what happened.
So I do a lot of visualizing, and actually the oak tree I'm very close to the oak tree. So it was very easy for me to go immediately there. But I'm very cautious when it comes to things speaking to me, because I'm new to, I feel like I'm new. I've been doing it for a while, but I feel like I'm new. It's a very slow process of knowing if who's talking, like if it actually is me. Maybe you call it the ego, or whatever. Anyway, so I'm real cautious, and I saw it there. It was a rabbit, kind of a brownish rabbit, but it was bigger, like maybe 3 feet, and he was kind of they were kind of standing up, and I just kind of walked, and I just looked at it, and I was like, and I just kind of, I just was like looking around, because I didn't want to ask too quickly, and so I asked what it was doing there, and it said waiting for you. And I was like, okay, that doesn't help. So I just kind of, like, it was very slow, like I didn't really know, and I was kind of, and I just kept looking, and then I can't remember if I asked her the question, but I realized then it dawned on me that this rabbit, so this is really interesting that this came up. When I was about 10, I think, between 10 and 12 years old, so I grew up shooting guns and hunting. in Vermont with my dad. And I think I was 10 when I first shot a rabbit with a shotgun. And it ran, I shot it, we walked up to it, it was not quite dead, it was dying, gasping for breath, blood. It was the most horrible thing that had ever happened to me in that moment. And I mean, I'll never forget this. I remember walking out of the woods behind my dad. He's carrying the rabbit. I'm bawling, crying. I cried all night. We were staying at my grandma's. I remember in bed crying. And so it dawned on me that was the rabbit. That was it, or a representation of it. And I just said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And it's so important to me. I don't feel any separation for animals. I'm a vegan and animal activist. I don't see any separation between humans and animals. So it's very hard for me when I know how much suffering the animals in this world, that happen on a daily basis, just so we can enjoy what they taste like in our mouths. I mean, it's horrible. So I just asked him, and I want to know on a more spiritual level, because I know so many amazing spiritual people in my life who still are eating meat, and I don't understand, and I'm not judging them. I want to understand. So I asked him, and I asked him what more I could do. What could I do? And it just said, you're doing enough, or you're doing all you can right now. And to just keep going. And yeah. Sorry. So yeah, that was it.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
We've done the reality check. So you told me how the rabbit had manifested for you before. What would you like to know, if anything?
From the rabbit, or just in general?
From that journey. Could be from the rabbit, or maybe there's nothing more. Maybe that was quite self-contained.
I want to know why humanity feels that we can do this to animals. I want to know why. And I want to know, especially when we're, I don't know. I want to know why. How did it come to this, and how did it become so normal? Because when I search the universe for answers, it's not normal. It's not right. I want to know why it came to this. How did it come to this? And why do we as humans feel that we can exploit these and torture and torment and kill these living beings for, and feel totally fine with it? I don't. Why? What happened? Where do we go wrong? What does it mean?
Okay.
It's a deep one. Sorry.
I'm not going to try to answer that question.
I know.
We'll leave it there, as that's your question. If it was my dream, I would recognize the rabbit as also a powerful totem animal that has come to you, that there's some resonance with, obviously. And I would feel that seems to me like a kind of soul recovery that you've just been through, that perhaps all those years ago when you were 10 and you killed that rabbit, that was a traumatic event, because you didn't know you weren't prepared for it, you didn't know how to make sense of that. And this experience has given you the chance to complete the circle in a way, that you've now met the spirit of rabbit in a sense, and he's made himself available to you. So that's a deep healing. That's probably the beginning of a powerful relationship with rabbit. Okay. And there's one more step that we do in the lightning dream work. And that's, if we feel like it, we can make a bumper sticker, like just a snappy little phrase that we would like to label this experience with. Does anything come to mind about that?
Don't eat meat.
Don't eat meat. Okay. That could be your bumper sticker.
There you go. Just don't eat it. Just don't do it.
Also, if it was me, I would want to follow up, perhaps do another journey later in your own time and go back, and you can dialogue with that, the spirit of rabbit. And I'm sure he can teach you a lot, probably. He might be able to answer that question. Okay, thank you.
I think Joe wanted to go. Joe, you there, brother? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here, man. Thank you so very much. So mine's a little bit strange. So that's really the reason that I wanted to do it, because I didn't have particularly an animal come through. Actually, mine was more like I actually titled mine Sacred Whisper.
Yep.
That's really more what it was like, just a whisper. And I've had that experience once before in my life in a meditation when I asked to know who my angel guide was, and it was Gabriel, and it whispered very, very, very softly in a voice that I did not recognize, in the right behind my ear, like somebody like went up and went like that right behind my ear. And that's the only other time that's ever happened. So it was really interesting to have it happen again. And the things that it said to me were
could I, sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got way ahead. Go ahead.
No. It's always good to return to how we feel, when we return from the journey. So if you could tell us, how did you feel when you came out from that?
Extremely curious, slightly confused, and curious. Curious, very deeply curious.
Okay. Curiosity can be a positive lead. So, okay. So tell us what happened.
So as I was walking towards the tree, one thing that was playing in my mind is that I don't dream well at night when I sleep. I very rarely dream, and when I do, it's very fleeting. I usually don't remember them, and the ones I do remember seem to be very consistent in the things that I remember about them. So I kept thinking, am I going to hear anything? I was like actually overthinking as I was walking to, and I got to a point where I just like released and was like, I'm like, stop thinking, and trying to figure out. And that's right when I heard the whisper. And as I heard the whisper, I was getting close to the tree, and it said, escape. There is no ceiling. That's all I heard. And that's because it's just curious. I don't even know what to make of it, to be honest with you.
Can you tell us more about the voice? Like, was it male? Was it female? Was it soft? Was it loud?
So it was male, but it was not a dominant male, like not an like an overbearingly more like a healing male voice, like a soft male voice. So it's very balanced between male and feminine energies. Like I would consider like an elder, like a tribal elder. That's what it felt like.
Which ear did you hear it in?
My right ear.
Right ear.
My right ear.
Okay. And so the reality check, like, do you recognize this? You mentioned once before you'd had something similar for an angel guide. Is there anything else?
I think, I mean, when I hear escape, there is no ceiling. I think I feel like I put a lot of parameters around things, maybe. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, like about how things, quote unquote, should be. And I don't know if it's I've done a lot of work recently in this particular, like I did an angel spread with my wife who does angel cards, and one of the themes was let go. And I think it's a thing of me just really having to break this pattern of some sort of perfectionism or overthought or over detailed thinking to the point where I think the details into every like you said, one thing you kept saying that was really interesting is quantum soup, because I feel like
Yeah.
that resonates with me huge. Like
Yeah.
I see all the possibilities, and then I get like anxiety because I don't know which way to go and which one to choose. And it gets really like overwhelming, like, okay, yeah, I could do this, but this is what's going to happen, but then I'm going to miss out on this one. You know, and it just clicks,
Yeah.
click, 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 you know. And I think it's just telling me to, like, I really have to like let go and like find a way to do what I did in that moment walking towards the tree, where I finally said, just stop thinking. And I have to be able to access that more, or learn to access that more.
Often in groups, the facilitator might say, just leave your critic outside the door. You know, they can have their say later, but for the purpose of this, what we're going to do, just leave the critic outside. So you can have a kind of heart-based experience, and then you can analyze it later if you want to. So if it was my journey, to me, this message is very powerful. What was it? Tell me exactly, was it again? You said there is no ceiling, but
yeah, it said escape. There is no ceiling.
So that's 2 sentences, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is, well, first of all, shamanically, in a sense, there is no ceiling, because we can access the world tree, and we can travel into the upper realms. So from the shamanic perspective, that is factually correct. So you've been given permission to lift off, you know. So you've been given permission
Got my lift
to
ticket.
fly. So that's very liberating.
Oh, wow.
I think if you put yourself into a little box somewhere, you've been given permission to fly out of it.
Ooh.
And
that's a trip, because my spirit animal is an eagle, is a hawk, and I would prefer to come back if I were to be reincarnated as a bird or a hawk or something like of that nature.
So this really speaks of flight to the upper, and you know, if we had more time, we could run a journey together in a group. We can go up the tree or down the tree, and when we go up the tree, we can then look at future possibilities. You can actually see the possible futures from up there, or you can take flight to the higher. Heaven has different levels, actually, so you can go to different levels of the spirit world. So to me, that's great.
That's beautiful.
Would you give it a bumper sticker for that experience?
I'm on my way.
Oh, I'm on my way. Yeah. I think
I might actually make that a t-shirt. I like that. that was a pure download right there, because I don't think I would have came up with that on a normal basis. So that was good.
Yeah, it feels like a kind of relief in a way, or just also a healing, actually. Also a healing, because your spirit wants to fly, and you've been given permission. So
that's good. Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You are just Kyle, awesome.
How are we time-wise? Should we continue or do some Q&A? Or
yeah, we're getting up close to the end here. So what we'll do is see if anyone has any questions they want to ask. Let's see. Oh, awesome. We have a couple of questions.
You got Angela. You got Renee.
We'll go to Renee and then Angela. If anyone else has one, you can just either raise your physical hand or Zoom hand. Go ahead, Renee.
Hey, Joann, that was truly incredible. I was kind of sad I couldn't tell my funny path story, but I am so grateful I was able to hear everybody else's. I kind of have an idea of what mine was, but I'm my spirit animals, and I don't know if they mean anything, but it's a squirrel and a horse.
Oh, yes, of course.
So the squirrel, a lot
Did you meet
like,
them? Did you see them today?
yeah, so the squirrel, before I could even get on the path, the squirrel was already running to me. So I started walking down the path, and he literally, like when you had first showed the picture, I don't know if I cheated or it's just because my third eye is very open. Because I'm working on my psychic abilities. I'm re enabling them per se, as you could say. So my intuition is like extremely booming. And I just had,
I can see that in your image. Actually, you can see that light coming
well,
down.
this light keeps being like crazy. So it's like, even though it's the lights in my room, I'm like, they're like beaming so differently, than normal. And I was just Reiki 2 attuned last week as well. So I just had a Reiki 2 attunement, and so my energy is like whoa right now. So yeah, so the squirrel just like ran to me and very playful, and he's like, come with me, and I said, okay. So I ran, like, and I was barefoot, and I ran down the path.
Nice.
And then right behind the tree there was a horse, and it's like a stallion. It's not like you know what I mean. And I come across squirrels a lot. Like, my bumper sticker off the bat would be, I break for squirrels, because I do. I'll be driving down the street and the squirrel will run and I'll brake. I don't care who's behind me. I stop my car because I don't want to hit it. And horses I've been seeing like a lot lately. But like Kyle, I did that Joe Dispenza meditation. They talk about, a sign, like an animal sign, and the squirrel and horse are always the two. And the crazy thing is, like I was just saying, at my Reiki 2 attunement, I had gone outside to take a picture with my mentor, with my Reiki master, and no word of a lie, the sun just started beaming down through the trees, and a squirrel was right there, not even 5 feet from me, and was just staring at me. And Tammy was like, "Holy shit!" Like, that's all she said. Was like, "That is crazy." But yeah, horses and squirrels, and I don't like. I kind of all he said is, don't put all your nuts in one basket.
Oh, very wise
squirrel. That's what he said. And he's like, come meet my family. And I'm like, and he, like, I saw him climb, like he went around. I'm like, dude, I said, I can't do what you're doing. I can't get up there. And then the horse, who was pretty much just grazing in the grass, all of a sudden he appeared in front of me, and he said, hop on. And then he brought me up the friggin' tree. And I was like, wow.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So it was insane, man. That was awesome. I felt so like playful, and I've been lacking play a lot. I've been very into my new career path, which, with a lot of confirmation and through meditation, it's my soul's work. And I've been very into that and growing in that way in the recovery world. I'm a certified peer recovery support specialist. So I help people in recovery with substance use and mental health. I reunify families that are in the system that have had their children taken away. It's a very powerful emotional position, and I've just forgotten how to play. I forgot how to disconnect. Because I get so involved, because I am so passionate and dedicated to my work, because to me it's not work. To me it's a mission. But then I put myself on the back burner, and my family, we don't have a lot of playtime anymore. You know what I mean? I feel like, because it's just my husband has worked this whole pandemic. He never had a break. He never had time home. So, it was me and the kids, and I played as much as I could, but I've been starting to get depleted. I really needed you tonight, honestly, and I needed my tribe, because I haven't been on this meeting in a while. So I'm truly grateful for you, Joann. Thank you so much. And yeah. So yeah, horses and squirrels. So I don't know what they mean. Like, I don't. If you have any insight on that, that would be great.
Well, just to comment again, if it was my experience, we can actually learn from the animals that appear to us. So they have their own medicine, their own power. So we can look at what, you know, what squirrels are good at, and which is collecting nuts, obviously. So how can we relate to that? Like collecting energy, how are we dividing our time? But I'm thinking about a very famous squirrel in Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, they have it's a very powerful vision of the world tree. It's the tree that basically holds together heaven, earth, and the underworld, called Yggdrasil. So Yggdrasil. And in that tree is a giant squirrel called
Ratataskar.
yes, Retta. Yeah, it was Retta. I could remember. Yes, so you may wish to research that Ratataskar, because it's really a typical and very powerful inhabitant of the world tree. And he wants to show you different levels and his family, which is a great honor, really. And concerning the horse, this is also a classic shamanic power animal. And typically, if we dream of a horse, the condition of the horse represents our spirit. It's very much a reflection of our spirit energy. And of course, it can convey us through the worlds. The fact that he took you up the tree was a very good sign. So in a sense, you've also been empowered to travel on the world tree. So it's I'd be pretty excited about it. And just looking at you, I can see all this light. It's now coming down from the top to the other side of your head. So this is interesting. Okay, so thanks.
I'm truly full of light. Thank you, Joann, so much.
That was awesome. Kyle had to step out for a second, so I'm just going to take over hosting for a little bit. Angela, I know you had a question. Do you still want to go? Tracy had one. Do you still have a question?
No, I'm gonna forego. If I could, Joann, if you do you do like consultations?
Yes.
Okay. I'll get your info and try and hook up with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Awesome.
I know we're towards the end, but thank you, Joann. I had a fascinating experience too. I'm shocked that a Black Panther met me at the and that gave me. I really felt grateful and relieved because I asked for protection at night. Like I live a very peaceful. I'm a mindfulness coach. I live a very peaceful, and I deal with a lot of stuff during my daytime. But I'm almost afraid to go to sleep at night. I have so many night terrors, and where I'm really in terror. Different things wake me up and I literally jump out of bed. So I was going to ask you about that because I did take to heart your message before the exercise, which was maybe there's something in there to see and not just be so frightened by it all the time. So my conversation with the Panther and his message to me was to be strong, stronger actually, and also to be agile, like the Panther body, strong but agile. And that resonates in so many ways with me. But I just asked him to protect me at night, and he said he would. And I felt so grateful. I literally praying and thanking him for protecting me in my dream state so that I could, and I said, just bring to me whatever I'm not able to handle it in my dream state, obviously. So bring it to me in my awake state, because I'm very capable in my awake state to handle any darkness, any fear, anything. And so I just asked for that exchange, and he said he would. And then he disappeared, and I actually merged into the tree. Like I went down underground into the roots, and then I went into the trunk, and then I went down underground. Then I felt myself kind of going up into all the branches. And then at some point I popped back out, and I could sense the Panther off in the distance. So, my message to myself, the title for myself to remember is, I am protected.
Beautiful. I'm just reminded that it was a Black Panther, was it?
Mm-hmm. Black Panther.
That this is an extremely powerful guide, especially from the South American traditions.
Mm-hmm.
This is an animal particularly associated with the shamans, the Mesoamerican shamans, and it signifies power. Mm-hmm. So this tells me something about ownership of your own power,
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
possibilities.
I felt like he said, be stronger, be courageous, you know, be stronger and courageous.
Something that that might be worth looking at. I don't know that much about your dreams or your dream experience. There could be a physical element to the awakening. So perhaps I would just try to eliminate the possibility of sleep apnea or something that's physically disturbing your sleep.
Okay.
Because do you know what sleep apnea is?
I do.
It's when the nose cuts off in a certain position, so you can't breathe, and so then you wake up feeling panicky.
Mm-hmm.
But just review the pillows and make sure you're getting enough oxygen in the room.
Mm.
You could perhaps consider using essential oils like lavender. It's something I sometimes put around my nose just to clear the airways, basically.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you, since you study and help people through dreams, like what you would recommend other than, I will look into the physical, and I also look into what I'm eating, you know, sometimes that affects if I'm going to have a night terror.
Mm-hmm.
But literally there's been a couple of times where 4 nights in a row, I'm almost afraid to go to sleep.
Well, we'd need to discuss it separately. Yeah. But you've made a big connection with the Panther guide. Yeah. What you could do is get some kind of representation of him or her. Yeah. It can even be a soft toy, like a Black Panther soft toy, or a carving, or something that you can have physically nearby to help you tune into that protective presence.
Thank you.
And I would also start with my dream journal, just try to bring through any impressions or any details that might help us track down what the issue is.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
That's awesome. Well, Joann, this is some phenomenal stuff. And honestly, for me, like I said, dreaming is not something that I get privy to often. So when you talked also about utilizing daytime as an opportunity to consider dreaming, yes, that was really powerful. Like even in the moment, because I was able to look back at even just the day prior to today and then today, and just kind of make some odd correlations to it. And it's just, when you think about it as a dream, it definitely takes some of the pressure off of life, which is kind of nice, especially in today's day and age. So I just think that this is,
you can feel supported. Yeah.
And I think I always have, like, I've trusted in the idea that there is a guide presence with me. But I think sometimes in a dream state, because we're not conscious to what's happening, and it can be so mystical at times and so unlike the actual tangible world we live on, that it seems so much more powerful in the weirdest of ways. But then we forget that these same kind of signs could be staring us straight in the face in everyday life that could be just as powerful. We're just not lending them that power because we're not open our eyes. We haven't been not aware to it. So you've been able to open that gate of awareness to me that there is power in the day-to-day dreaming. Yes. And that's pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
That's really cool. I dig that. So we don't want to hold you up too much longer. I don't know if there's anybody else here that I just want to get any final questions or any comments anybody wants to make to Joann before we take off. We're all good. I'm going to read our dedication of merit, which we read at the end of every meeting. And this is because there's a lot of good energy that we get cultivated during this. And tonight's was particularly awesome. I think a lot of people went deep and got some good stuff. So we dedicate the merit of this meeting to all those awakening at this precious time. May our efforts to better ourselves help shift the planetary consciousness from fear into love. May this energy ripple out into the world and awaken those with closed hearts, illuminate closed minds, and inspire all to live within the presence of compassion and generosity. Joann, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So stoked.
Thank you, Joann. Thank you, everyone.
So much. You're welcome. I think you're all brilliant dreamers, actually. I can just tell that you just immediately connected with the energy and did well.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I thank you everybody for sharing too. I really appreciate everybody's vulnerability, and it was awesome. So we love you guys.
Have a great night.
Thank
Okay,
you. Good night,
good evening,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good week. Take care. Love you all.
Love you.
Love ya.
Bye.